What's up everyone, welcome to another video in my series about the Tilta Khronos cage or ecosystem, and in this video I'm going to show you the universal adapters and mounting options. And because people wrongfully assume that you can only use the official accessories like the light that comes in the ultimate kit, but with the universal adapters you have basically no limits what you can mount. And this is not sponsored, so don't think I'm trying to just be overly positive or something like this. And yeah, I'm just going to quickly show. So for example, we have the cold shoe adapter for microphones or the mic receivers, for example from DJI or Holyland or Rode. And on one side, obviously, we always have the Tilta locking mechanism for the Khronos cage, and on the other one we have the cold shoe adapter or mount. Then the universal NATO mount, I think it's called, because it's actually a NATO rail, so you can not only use the screw, the 1/4 screw with the ARCA locating pins. If you need them, you can also just use it as a NATO rail. So that's awesome, you can mount whatever you might want. And then we have the ARCA Swiss tripod blade that is on one side very similar to the universal mount, because it's, yeah, you can also use the same things, but this is a NATO rail and this is an ARCA Swiss tripod blade, for example, that you would use on the big design travel tripod or something like that. And then we have the universal accessory mount, that it's actually the only mount that is the other way around. So it's not for mounting more things to the cage of Tilta Khronos, it's actually to mount any Tilta accessory to anything else. So for example on the Moment Super Cage, or maybe on your camera or something like this. So this actually opens up the ecosystem without needing the cage. So yeah, that's also great if you have a normal camera or Android phone or something that doesn't support the cage, and then you can still use the SSD holder or whatever you might want. And then the last thing that I think is not officially sold as a universal adapter or something like this, that's actually the I think NATO rail side handle. So it has the Tilta side handle that you can adjust with a button however you might want, and this thing is a NATO rail. So that's awesome, because this way you can mount basically a side handle and a NATO rail at the same time, and then here you can mount whatever NATO accessories you might have. And now I'm going to quickly show you how they might work in action. Starting out with the cold shoe adapter, so you push the button and you press it down and then you can lock it, and now you have a cold shoe mount. So now for example you can take any microphone or something with a cold shoe mount and you can just drop it in. Of course you can screw it, and then you have your microphone successfully on there, and then you can connect it to via USB-C or 3.5 jack. And now you can also, if you want, just leave it on your mic permanently, and then it's quicker to mount every time you're gonna use it. Now let's look at the use case for the universal NATO adapter. I have mounted it to a friction arm. Now I can just go here, push, lock, and now I have a friction arm mounted to the cage. So now I could hang this on any pole, tripod, tree, or whatever I want. And this way I would have the cage mounted easily to a friction arm. Now we have the same adapter mounted, but instead of the friction arm, I'm gonna use I think this is a universal NATO adapter mount or whatever it's called. They all have quite similar names. This one is from Tilta, but you can also find them from any other company. And then you just slide it on, and then it has a similar mechanism. You just push, and now this is fixed. And now with this, the crazy part is, let's take it off together with the adapter. Now we can see here we have the adapter, and here we can put a cold shoe, we have a screw. Here we just, on everything you can mount whatever you want. So you could even go completely crazy, and for example, you lock this down. Now you could still put a friction arm on top, for example, here on top, for example, and at the same time mount a microphone here, a light there, whatever you want. So with this alone, you basically free up whatever you want, and yeah, you could mount one of those everywhere. You could do as much as you basically want. So let's look at the next one. And the next one is the ARCA Swiss tripod blade, and you can just same thing, mount it and lock it. And now you can already see I could also mount a friction arm here, or now I could, for example, use this to put it in a tripod. Obviously now it's kind of the wrong position, but I could also, for example, take this and mount it here. And now I can use the tripod plate here to mount it vertically in my tripod. And at the same time I could use the USB-C hub that is also ARCA Swiss to mount it. So now I could mount it vertically or horizontally really quickly. And here you have also the same thing. So yeah, you have quite a few options. And like I said, because they are so similar, those two, you can, if you don't need the NATO rail, then you can basically use whatever you want. And obviously you can also use the USB-C hub. Here I got my crazy moment super cage rig that is more universal. But you can see I have another Tilta Khronos Focus PD handle here. And if I take it off, you can see here we have the universal accessory mount. So you just screw this with the screw into any of the mounting points on the cage, or you could also obviously put this on a cage of your regular Sony camera or Canon or whatever, Nikon. And then you just lock it down and now you can use it. So now I can mount, for example, the handle here. And of course, this is the perfect position for handle. But if I changed the whole setup up, for example, I could also use the SSD holder. So now if you already have this, you don't need to buy another SSD holder for your other rigs. And you can just quickly switch the holder from one setup to the next. And one quick note, of course, the light will not work because the light draws power through the cage. So if you mount the light here, there is no way it can get power. So that's one of the obvious limitations. But this is awesome. Like I showed in my other videos, like this I can use whatever iPhone I want and I can just throw it in there. Technically I could also use other smartphones, but with iPhones you also have the awesome functionality with the Blackmagic camera app that you can start, stop, record, focus, zoom, whatever you want. Watch my other videos if you want to see more about this rig and how this whole thing works. And now lastly, one of the coolest ones in my opinion is the NATO rail side handle. That is like the regular side handle that you can move in any direction like I showed earlier, but you can mount it to your cage like this. Then you have an awesome grip with the side handle, but now you can use any NATO accessory and put it here. And you can, you have a little bit space of going up and down and locking wherever you want. If you want, you could technically also use two smaller NATO rail accessories at the same time, if it has any benefit. But I like to use it like this. And then, for example, put my microphone here, the friction arm, or more likely the light here, and the friction arm here, and stuff like this. In conclusion, I hope this video found you if you were one of those people in all the comment sections of the Tilta Khronos that were confused about this topic or thought it's impossible to mount other things, and I hope this helped. Obviously you have many more options. For example, with NATO rails, there are NATO rail accessories for anything you can imagine in the camera world. So the sky is the limit, if that's not too cliche. And with that, I subscribe and thanks for watching.